Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Poeltl podcast, the podcast wherein Trevon Heath, my co-host, pulls up. We have a special guest today. I'm Samson Folk, by the way, if you care, if that matters to you. I co-host this as well. Nekias Duncan of the Dunker Spot, of all kinds of basketball talkings and musings, has joined us. Looking at the 9-5 Raptors, 8-1 in their last nine. It's
Mhm.
been an impressive run. Trey and I, these people hear us talk Raptors all the time. Nekias, I'm going to let you take it away. Charlotte game, that was pretty fun. How do you feel about it, and how do you feel about the Raptors overall?
I would say it was funny for me specifically because we
Mm-hmm.
just talked about the Raptors a little bit on a recent episode of the Dunker Spot, and I have been sprinkling in throughout the year. Hey, RJ Barrett deserves more of your respect. RJ Barrett deserves more of your respect. RJ Barrett, and then I was like, cool. I get to talk to the Raptors later tonight. They're playing Charlotte, another team that I've enjoyed watching. It's all gonna dovetail nicely, and then RJ has one of his games of the season. We will put it that way. But no, it was like first half of flashes of good stuff and a bunch of misses at the rim. It's like, okay, what is this? And we have a little bit of a turnover fest. It's like, what is this? But then the second unit just continues to bring me joy this year. You get all of the Mamu, you get all the Jamal shit. Gradey Dick with a good game. Love that. Scottie's just flying around defensively. It's been a fun year. So I guess as I zoom out from the actual Hornets game, it's just been cool watching them figure things out. Defensively, seeing them try to lock in with this aggressive style. It was very shaky at the beginning of the year, but it feels like they found the right balance of we're pressuring, we're solid in the half court, we can force some turnovers, but ultimately we can just make life tough on you and restrict space. And offensively, trying to blend their three best players together, trying to have the right blend of off-ball screening, off-ball movement, while making sure it's not cluttered for some of the drives and things that they want to get to. And so it's not perfect yet, but the fact that they've had this tough schedule while trying to navigate all of this and they have this record, I think it's a testament to the collective buy-in. And ultimately, this seems to be a pretty good team.
The numbers love them. And I think there's something that good teams, or at least decent teams, they figure out how to win, and winning looks a lot of different ways for them. The Raptors last season, when they'd win a game, it would look about the same as usual. But good teams, there's a lot of different ways. We did not mention Brandon Ingram's name yet on this
Mhm.
podcast. 27 points on 21 shots, 6 boards, 3 assists. He is the mid range king currently in the NBA. He is rebounding the ball better on the defensive side, and he is putting Kalkbrenner in a grave on both ends of the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trey, we will get to you after, but I need Ingram thoughts from Nekias before we flow into things naturally here.
It's been interesting for me to track this because he has been such an important fail-safe for them offensively. And as you kind of mentioned at the top, that the numbers love the Raptors. That's also been a source of angst for me because I feel like a lot of the offensive rating is Brandon Ingram has long been a very good mid-range scorer. There's no way he's doing this for 82 games. And so I'm just kind of waiting to see where
Well,
that
he'll
looks
do it.
up
He'll
at.
do it for 62 because he's not playing 82.
Yeah. Well,
That's fair.
when you put it that way. But no, so it's that part's been interesting. I'm glad that he's taking threes on purpose. That seems to be an important bit that he's shown flashes of before in New Orleans and going back, but him still finding enough 3-point volume in addition to I could just get you a bucket whenever you need me to. And he also kept kind of aids Toronto in their off ball and half court movement in general. It doesn't have to be anything intricate, though Darko can draw some stuff up. He can just be all right, let's just get a pin down, get him to the middle of the floor. And he's a dribble away from something that he's comfortable with, no matter what the defense is doing. Just having that option to kind of bail you out of some stuff has been pretty important for them. So that part's been good. I'm keeping an eye on the playmaking. I'm keeping an eye on the defense, like you already alluded to. Some of the impact plays that he had, the block on Ryan Kalkbrenner was unbelievable,
Yeah, man.
honestly.
Big time.
like,
Big time.
but you just want that per possession consistency from him. So always keeping an eye on that. But ultimately, it's been good stuff for him, in my opinion.
As you mentioned, they're only a pass away, a dribble away from where he's comfortable. The sidelines out of bounds play, he's been one of the best players in the league scoring out of it. And a lot of times it's just an Iverson cut. And they're like,
Mhm.
just loop around and see what you can do. As you've highlighted, the option screens they run him off of before on Twitter, they just run him off screens and like, okay, this is great. Trey, from your perspective, this is Ingram's first closing.
Mm.
He put this is
Yeah.
Twitter stands, Kingram. This game fueled maybe like 4 months of posts. It's a pretty big deal.
I just want to start by saying, like, thank you, Bruce Brown, for your contribution to this.
Yes.
Honestly,
Even
big
after
time.
he beefed with our friend Goose, it's come around.
He's top 100 most important Raptor who ever lived, honestly. But I think this game is an epitome of why you made the trade and why you brought him to the team. The Raptors lost tons of close games simply because, like, when you get to these close games, teams are more shy to run actions because of turnovers, and they simply had no one that could put the ball on the floor. Like, bless RJ Barrett's heart, but he was just overmatched in those situations last year. They lost a lot of those games. You in tight games, you can rely on throwing Brandon Ingram the ball, put him in a clear out situation. They're going to get to an easy look. He found RJ on the cut and they got an easy look. His mid range shot is something that you can rely on, and like he made a play defensively. Like the defense hasn't been good to start the year, but he's active on the glass. He was very active defensively at the end of the game, and that's what you need. It puts less pressure on guys like Scottie, who only had 16, but it felt like he was the best player on the floor towards the end, which is everything you want to see from this team. So great stuff.
Yeah, the 538 used to be the home of a piece where you'd be like, why do teams not run regular offense at the end of a game? Lewis wrote that piece. The Raptors, they said, let's get a pinch post for Brandon Ingram. And it's a very easy look. You toss it in, see if they have a guy who can D up. They send two, and Ingram does not make the automatic pass out. He probes a little bit further, even after losing his dribble, which isn't always easy to do, hang the pivot. And RJ, after, as Nekias put, having a game of sorts, makes the gut cut. Jakob Poeltl is pinning Kalkbrenner as deep under the rim as possible, and there's a play there. There's obviously Miles Bridges thinks that, I don't know what type of coverage he thinks he's playing, but there's a red carpet for Ingram to get that huge dunk. Is there anything from your point of view, Nekias, that you see the Raptors do it and you're like, I like this. This is good. I'm having fun with this.
It's funny that you hit on like some of the sideline stuff that they do, because that was one of the things that I highlighted when we talked about the Raptors, I think last week. Is it just doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like, let's loop one guy around, let's loop a second guy around. You hit Ingram if he's there. If not, here's RJ Barrett just sealing somebody. It's just like sometimes it could just be that easy. Clear some space for your strength-based guys and let them have some fun. Or to your point, like just give Brandon Ingram a side and let him go to work. And so it's just been fun watching those guys just kind of find their pockets. And Scottie in the middle of all of this, figuratively and literally, has just been a joy. Like, I'm glad, again, after the shaky start, 2-3 games defensively for the whole squad, really, they've really settled in. And Scottie Barnes, if he's not all defense this year, like, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing. If he
I'll
keeps
shake
this
your
up,
hand right now, brother. I'll shake your hand, man.
Like, it's mid-November, so plenty of year. We'll see what happens. But with the way that he's playing right now, like, if you're not watching a bunch of Raptors games, you can just look at the box score and see the stocks numbers and the Raptors defensive rating. Like, okay, well, he must be doing the thing. If you watch these games, I had a little angst tonight when he got some LaMelo Ball assignments, because my thing with Scottie has always been, let him guard 3 through 5. I don't really want him getting a high dosage of like those shifty guards up top. But like, he's guarding LaMelo on one possession. He's defending Miles Bridges on another possession. He's making weak side rotations at one point. Like, he's just all over the place. And he plays so hard.
Did you watch Raptors Cavs, the last one?
I saw the first half of that one. I didn't get to catch the second half.
I think, well, there's a second half play where Donovan comes off a screen and Scottie moves off of Mobley, who's above the break, and he's a goalie in the lane. And completely the drive is done. He also is the one pass away man. The ball goes to Mobley, and he blocks Mobley's 3 on the recovery. It's like, that's one block, but that's so much more. And he has a mountain of stocks in this season. Of course, he had 3 tonight. And not an efficient shooting game. It was tough around the rim for the Raptors in this one. But Barnes, I'm glad you said the all defense stuff, because I've been preaching it as well. The national media, I hope, does too, from yourself and others. He's been immense.
He's been that good.
Can I ask you though, how you feel about the offensive stuff from what you've seen so far?
mixed bag. Like, it's felt like he's kind of been the one that's trying to figure out where he fits into the Brandon Ingram package plus RJ against tilted defenses. And like, ideally, I would like to say, okay, cool, just use Scottie more as a screener and let him make short roll decisions. But as I'm sure y'all have hit on plenty throughout Scottie's career, he's not as good of a screener as he probably should be, or at the very least,
Yep.
not consistently. And so one thing I've noted over the last few games is like, okay, he's making more contact when he's trying to slip out of stuff now. It's like, that's a baby step that I'll take. But like, I would like to see him get more juice out of that, because if you get him in the middle of the floor, dribble away, shoulder nudge, jump hook, he's good to go. Or he can just make any pass you need him to. So like, I would like to see more of that. But other than that, like, he's grabbing boards and juicing the transition attack. You take that stuff when they do use him as a hub, like a lot of that has been fine to me. More than anything, like, I just want him to stay consistently aggressive. Like, I appreciate him putting his head down a little bit more.
Yep. That's one big thing from this game, was that he took one 3-pointer out of the corner. It didn't go in. Early on, I mean, he's probably at 40 or 41% on threes over the course of the season. A lot of that is earlier season volume. He was shooting over the top as a wide open player. And the same way in year 3 when he shot over the top and then closeouts came, it hasn't come yet this year. He's still trying to force it a little bit, but you don't want to just become a 3-point shooter. As you said, the transition stuff for listeners, among the highest volume transition players, Scottie Barnes is at least top 5 in points per possession, as far as like how the transition's been going. And that's just synergy. That doesn't account for, I think, his stellar transition playmaking. He's been fantastic there, as Nekias highlights. Trying to find the space in the half court. The ball reversals are great. I love when the ball finds him when the other defense is in motion. Trey, you have long been paying close attention to Scottie, the star qualities or burgeoning or attempted star qualities of his offense. How do you feel about it? I guess we're this 14 games in, they're 9-5. They're winning some games.
Like offensively, I think you're still looking for more. A lot of his numbers have been juiced just because of how crazy his shot making was to begin the season. And there's a lot of things that he can do in between, just like strength based stuff, where he can get an early seal and keep contact on a guy, just like he did with Miles Bridges. I was so sure he was going to take a turnaround mid range fader, but he went inside. He utilized his strength. And Miles Bridges isn't a tiny guy. He can get a lot of those looks, and if he does that consistently, he'll be able to draw 2. And then if he does that, it's going to open up everything for his game. Like the 3-point shooting, I think he can be an average open 3-point shooter. But if he can figure out what he can do, probably like 0 to 5 feet in, and be a real guy that has gravity around there, his playmaking numbers are going to go through the roof. So I'm still waiting for that stuff to pop for him.
The mid-range stuff, I think, has been quite timely so far this season. He hasn't forced it a lot. It's mostly been to beat teams that are, asking him like, well, make it. And he has. He also has, I think, 13 or 14 offensive rebounds over the past 5 or 6 games. That's nice. Corner crashing, putting the pressure there, and also picking up. It's the tagging up aspect of it. The Raptors, sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't, which brings me to a question, Nekias. So the Raptors on synergy, and I don't know how they classify this stuff, so I'm curious what you think. The Raptors, when they play, quote, low pressure, they're unbelievable. Their defense points per possession is like at the very least top 3 in the NBA. When they play, quote unquote, high pressure, they're getting torched. Now I go watch a low pressure defensive possession and they double like 39 feet away from the rim. And I'm wondering, how are they tracking this? How do they categorize this? Do you, one, know how they do that? And 2, what have you made of the Raptors toggling their pressure over the course of the season?
One, I do not know how they do that. One of the things that I had in my notes when I was talking to Toronto over this recent stretch of games was that like their pickup rate in the backcourt had dropped a little bit from the beginning of the year, and like the average pickup distance had dropped a little bit, and like that's something that kind of that is apparent on film. Like, okay, they're not always. It's not always as soon as someone turns around from catching the inbound, there's a Raptor jersey in front of them. So like you see that stuff. But ultimately, I like the adaptability of it. Like, I appreciate trying to set a tone. And I think they recognize very early on, like, I don't know if we have the infrastructure to deal with kind of the coverage bust that far from the basket, at least not yet. And so like dialing some of that back, I think shows a real level of adaptability. I thought it was smart. And so like there's a middle ground. Like I don't think you have to go from we are pressuring all the time, it didn't work. We are now going to be the Los Angeles Lakers where they just never do full court pressure and we just pick you up in the half court, we go from there. And so like finding the appropriate level I think has been smart for them. So you can still establish that baseline level of activity and you give yourself more of a shot. And so like I appreciate that aspect of it.
As a note, and this is something for you to chew on if you have any immediate thoughts. Basically, every coach I've talked to this year, I've asked them, hey, so everyone's picking up farther. Do you think offenses are better at identifying that and playing against it? And consensus is yes, offenses are better at identifying how to beat the press now. Do you feel similarly?
Yes. Yes. Matter of fact, like I was doing a thread for Hawks Raptors, that opener, and I immediately had like 3 or 4 clips in my thread about how the Hawks were just kind of torching some of the early pressure from Toronto in that game.
Hmm.
And some of the like someone's playing the high side of Trae Young, he just the inbound to someone else, he darts down the middle, and it's an immediate advantage for Atlanta to kind of poke at. And Toronto ends up winning that game, but it's just like, okay, well, this can't be what it's going to be. And you watch other games across the league, it's here's the big man flashing the half court because no one's pressing him. We've now got it across with 21 on the clock. Good job trying to establish this pressure. It just does not matter. So, like, yeah, I think teams have kind of gotten more privy to it. That's where some of the guys like we talk about Jamal Shedd if we want, but just in general, your Davions, the guys that are really good at mirroring folks that far out. Jose Alvarado in New Orleans, not too much positive to talk about right now outside of the rookies, but like he is very good at, even if I'm the only person back here, I can feel the screen behind me. I can duck under, reattach, and you still have to deal with me before you cross half court. Like those individual guys that can do that become more valuable in this context. I think those guys who can do that without you needing an extra body or two to press everyone at the same time, like I think it becomes more valuable in this context because I do think offenses in general are better at kind of identifying and countering that kind of pressure.
I also, so when Caitlin and I talked about this, I can't remember if it was her who gave me the number, but it was that when teams add all this pressure, they're actually forcing, you would think intuitively that they're adding the pressure to put teams into the back of the shot clock. And there's a lot of like words given to that, but a lot of times it actually hurries teams because you pressure. So they say, oh, it could be 5-on-4. Let's break up court. And the Raptors in their 1-4 stretch are one of the fastest teams in the league per pace. Trey, I want your thoughts on this. They've been one of the slowest teams in the league in this 8-1 stretch. That's unique and probably not something that most Raptors fans are thinking about, but the games have been slower. Maybe Brandon Ingram shot making really reigns supreme in this lens, but what have you made of the slower Raptors?
Yeah, I think it leans more to Ingram's strengths. He's basically been their fulcrum and hub throughout everything in terms of the half court, and he's probing, he's getting to the middle, and then utilizing Jakob Poeltl or Scottie Barnes to reverse the ball and get open threes, get open looks across the board for everyone else. Whereas, while they're still like in transition a ton, prior to they're super reliant on their shot making across the board. And that's kind of come down to earth to some degree, especially RJ Barrett, which is tough. But I think playing at this level will allow Ingram to do what he does best. And eventually he's going to start hitting threes as the mid-range shooting comes down to earth to some degree. And like the playmaking, you're starting to see some of that pop out now that they're playing to a style that fits him.
I think the Ingram of it all is obviously very interesting for the Raptors, but they are a Darko team,
Yep.
which means there's a lot of point guard stuff that they're trying to navigate. Nekias, I don't know if you're privy to the conversations had on Raptors Twitter, the wider fan base. I don't know if you're that tapped in, but hair was on fire. Now hair is not. The Immanuel Quickley discourse has been all over the place. What have you made of the Raptors point guard so far this season?
Gonna be honest, we were hosting a playback room watching the Raptors during that 1-4 stretch, and I was like, I need Immanuel Quickley to figure out who he wants to be in Toronto. And I'm glad that he's been able to turn it around. Like making more shots certainly helps, but he does just seem more in control in general. And so like it feels like he's making better decisions. If he doesn't have the immediate pull up, he'll get off of it, jitterbug around, come off another handoff, and now he's attacking again. And so like it does feel like he has a better feel for what types of shots he wants when he wants to get to the floater versus when he wants to probe a little bit more, when he wants to play make off of that. And so I'm glad that he's playing better. I'm still a little nervous, honestly. I'm just kind of waiting on him to backslide a little bit in terms of process. I don't want that to be the case, but it's just been an inconsistent run in Toronto just as a concept.
Yep.
But this recent stretch is a lot more of the Immanuel Quickley I expected when he first got there. I was very excited about the move, the contract, thought that kind of pull-up shooting at the time, like some interesting defensive flashes in New York, was hoping that was going to carry over. That hasn't really been the case so far during the Toronto era. So like I want him to put it together. I'm just kind of waiting to see a longer stretch of good play before I really dive back into the Immanuel Quickley train.
We have long been waiting on, I guess it's two major things. The defense, I didn't like it that much in New York anyway, so I wasn't expecting it. But one was a higher volume of catch and shoot threes, to not get run off the line as easily. But he does have that low set point, that shooting point, and it's not particularly quick. So he does get run off. He could utilize the sidestep more. And then two, playmaking middle. Not a lot of playmaking middle for a point guard. And as far as I'm concerned, point guards who play make middle are the best thing of all time. That's you can utilize all portions of the floor. Suddenly bigs become really important. And this takes us to Jakob Poeltl, who is at the same time the the harbinger of like spacing in Toronto. Ooh, how do we make this work? What do we do? And then secondly, he has to be the entry point to make spacing work and as a finisher around the basket. Nekias, we're going back to you again. Jakob Poeltl, who has had a back thing, has had, all this kind of stuff, but his stats lately, the stats have been quite good. The process has been all right. What do you make of it?
It would appear that having a healthier back makes you a better basketball player. Because I think he was also, kind of rewind back to the earlier conversation, like he was a part of the defensive woes for Toronto because like they couldn't rely on him to clean up some of the messes that were happening behind half court and even in the half court on virtually any possession where he's actually up to the level. Like watching some of the recovery on those, I'm just like, this
It
is
was
not.
like a broom was taped to his back.
Yes, it's like, if anybody gets behind him, if they clear a corner or something like that, like he just doesn't have a shot. Like I knew that wasn't Jakob. But like as he's gotten healthier, like the defense has felt better. I think, as you kind of alluded to, some of the high hub work has been important. The screening and the seals have been very important to help juice things in the half court for Toronto. Excuse me. And so like I'm glad that he's also kind of finding his way within this. And I guess actually I want to circle back to like a general question for Toronto because I was really intrigued by like the pace point that you made. What is the ideal pace for Toronto in your opinion?
I think it's a mix, right? In the same way and this is a lazy answer because it's always a mix. Every team, it's a mix. It's like, yeah, when slow is good, then slow. When fast is good, then fast. They have been worse at the hit ahead the past few games. They've also been trying to get everybody up court at the same time. And I think there's a thing where maybe they realized this isn't necessarily the Pacers. They don't trust everyone who catches a hit ahead to make the right decision. And the Raptors had a whole lot of like, hey, what the hell? 1-on-3. I know we emboldened you, but that's maybe not
pass the
great.
ball.
Maybe pass the ball. So they've been a little bit more cognizant of like, we don't do the hit aheads. We bring the ball up and establish ourselves and make sure everybody fills a lane, see what comes up. And since they're slow stuff, ATOs, the Brandon Ingram of it all, even like Quickley stuff to get him loose, Gradey stuff to drag the defense, like the way they always were targeting Grady's side of the floor as the tag man against Charlotte because they're like, okay, this might be a way to make something work here. That process of Darko kind of controlling, okay, we're going to be a little bit more cognizant of what we're doing here. That makes them slower, and it's worked offensively. They've kind of stayed the same. Defensively, I think it is not picking up as often means that it's not as many bursting teams down the floor. And it also means they're a little bit better positioned as a rebounding team. They went from one of the worst in the NBA to one of the best. I think it's them trying to rein some things in. But as you know, the NBA is, even for teams, it kind of operates on trends. They could go faster again. They probably got a lot of information really quickly that, okay, we have like 3 good transition players, and despite being the team that plays there the most, we don't have enough good decision makers, so we don't get to be it's not Obi Toppin out on the run every time. I know that's like an everywhere answer, but what have you made of it?
No, like I've been trying to sort that out because I think for me, I would like for it to be a little pacier offensively, just to kind of alleviate some of the stress that they have in the half court at
Mhm.
times, trying to
Mm.
work through things. And like it's again great that Brandon Ingram with 8 on the clock could just make every mid-range jumper in existence, but like you don't want that pressure on him. And so, in
Yeah.
some respects, like I wish they would play a little bit faster and kind of get side to side quicker than they do. But to your point, like it makes sense to kind of control things and make sure, like, okay, even if it is going to be tough late in the clock, we are at least guaranteeing that the ball is in the hands of one of our best players at the end of the clock versus some randomness or a bad early clock shot. And now it's transition defense time.
That's as a quick thing, that is the Raptors, they've kind of framed themselves, they get a lot of assists as like this egalitarian offense, but it's actually very directed towards their quote unquote stars.
Mhm.
Like you look at the guys, like whether it's Jamal Shed is a different thing, but Sandro, Grady,
Mhm.
Ochai, Jamison, Jacoby, whomever, CMB, these guys don't touch the ball very often. CMB a little bit more, Sandro a little bit more for working through them in delay and DHOs and stuff like that. But their off ball guards and wings, it's like you get to touch it once per minute, maybe. And you better not screw it up. Do
Mhm.
some good with it. And so it's a little bit tyrannical, authoritarian, this offense right now. Trey, to swing it back to you. Slower Raptors, yes. Jamal Shed, I want to talk bench. We have quite a few games now of them just
Mhm.
winning bench minutes. They've been one of the best benches in the league. Grady, Sandro, Jamal, CMB. Where do you want to go with this?
I'm just so impressed by Jamal Shed and how and how he summer league was rough, and you wanted to see like some sort of leap, see if he can get into the lane and turn those possessions into something positive. And that didn't necessarily happen, but it has in the regular season. I guess playing with good players just makes things a lot easier. Um, but with Jamal and Sandra especially, the Raptors finally get into groove once that transitional lineup comes into play, where it's those 4 off the bench with Ingram or Scottie. Both have had tons of success pretty much since they've been going to those looks, and that's because they can play with tons of space. Jamal's defense has, while not being Houston level, still has been better than last season. You can cover a lot of ground if CMB's on the backside, Mamu as well. And the really interesting thing about their bench is that, similar to what you said, like they just embolden the starters around them. Like their bench units are been one of the most positive lineups pretty much across the league for a bench unit. But they're not scoring tons of points. It's Scottie playing with Mamu, scoring tons of buckets. It's Brandon Ingram having spacing, being able to play make and score around those around where they want. And I think you see the vision of what Darko wants when the bench plays, simply because they can cover the point of attack a bit better, and they can Jamal plays with tons of pace and it gets them going. So they've hit probably like a 90% outcome for what you wanted to see from your bench unit. It's just like figuring out how can we make this starting unit defensively like attainable or just average heading into like the 5-minute mark in the first quarter.
I think the bench unit, and I'll swing this to you after Nekias, but I think the bench unit, despite having, I think on its face, more limited defenders, like Sandro doesn't have a sterling reputation.
Yeah.
Now that doesn't mean he can't hang in. Grady can hardly hang in and does not have a sterling reputation. Jamal, I think he struggled a lot defensively last year. Like there's
Yep.
effort there, but he's missing on a lot too. And CMB is a rookie who gets like 5 fouls per 36. How are these guys dominating? And I think the biggest difference, not to be like, put on the coach's head and say effort matters, but they all hang in
Yeah.
plays.
Mhm.
And the Grady thing, it reminds me of, how they tell you move into a new place, you're supposed to ask your neighbor for like for a favor so that you start that
Yeah.
process of like you can go to one another. The
Mhm.
way that Grady needs people to switch, peel next or otherwise for him, I
Yeah.
think puts the defense in like a we're all here for one another. Like they all hold hands like Red
Yep.
Rover because they're like, we got to protect them. And it goes down the line. Nekias, what are you made of this Raptors bench?
Oh, it's been some of my most fun watching the Raptors this year, frankly. Like the question I was going to pose to you too, and you already hit on it, was how surprised have you been by the Mamu defense so far this year?
So when I talked to Mamu about this before the season, during the
What a
season,
flex.
I was like, I mean, but
He's worldwide.
oh Jesus. Anyway, so Mamu, he's an unbelievable driver. And that wasn't really talked about as a huge part of his game. And even he said when he got to the Raptors, like guys were like, oh, what the hell? What's going on here? And he is so on balance. He's extremely athletic. And I think that is motivating in a Raptors defense that is not necessarily that has Scottie Barnes as like one of the top 10 players in the league defending the most. It's not going that well, but he's defending a lot of shots at the rim. Just having Mamu like in the mix and being able to functionally move and operate as a big player on the inside, they have a lot of effort and moving parts elsewhere. CMB, Scottie, like I just alluded to Gradey and how many times they switch him in and out of things and they'll just float guys. I think he's just as a floating big, he's surviving. And the stuff on the perimeter is not that bad either. It's he obviously had that front of the rim block tonight. That was nice. He's had a few of those this year, but he's living and surviving. I think because they don't play him as if he were like an anchor big, which I mean, who would?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that. Like I would say quickly, like, people should have been watching Mamu on those Spurs teams, man. Like I know the record got kind of wonky in the second half of some of those. He's just a very fun big. So it's been cool watching him get more adoration from this Raptor fan base and some of the tweets that I'm seeing there. But yeah, like Mamu's been really fun this year. I'm glad that we're getting more CMB minutes. He, as I always say on the pod, like I'm not Mr. Draft, so like Summer League is normally my introduction to a lot of these guys, and so that plus this early season sample, I knew like archetype wise, this is the type of player that I know I would like. Dude that can fly around defensively, can make short roll decisions, like just tough. Like, okay, I'm probably going to like this guy. It's the fact that we've had this many like positive flashes from him already this year is where I'm just even more in on what he's going to be. And I guess another question I wanted to toss to you, especially in relation to like some of the stuff we talked about with Jakob earlier, do you have trust that if he's able to maintain some level of health, is he still starter quality for you, or is he just a bridge to whatever the Mamu or CMB minutes are going to be in this front line?
Jakob is still starter level to me, and I think it's because the Raptors are a team that is still reliant on getting loose from screens. Jakob is also, you can never, even if his back isn't very good, his craft using his steps and the gather dribble at the right time on the roll is really special. Now, do I wish he would punch it a little bit more often instead of laying it in? Sure. But
Yeah.
it's the defense is where it slipped the most. Offensively, I think he's just as svelte and smooth, and he helps facilitate offense in so many ways. And like, Colin Castleton, 6 assists per game, Jonathan Mobo, end of season, triple doubles, is because Darko wants to enter the ball to his big. He wants to run split action. He wants to run through things. And
Right.
Jakob, despite I think the check down pass over the top from big men is the most overrated pass of all time. Everyone sees one backdoor bounce pass. They say this guy is Nikola Jokic. I can't believe it. But he's important for them running through so much of their offense. And Darko has been adaptable in so many ways, but he has not changed his affection for that type of like initiation. I got to ask you, and then I want Trey's thoughts, because I haven't asked him about Gradey in a while. Gradey Dick, Nekias, what did you make of it? He's the hot button topic in Toronto.
Yes.
I'll have you know.
Yeah, I've seen so many. What level of 3-point shooter is he going to be? What is the defense? Why don't they pass Gradey the ball? It's like it's hard for me to say because like I'm not. I love watching this team, but like I'm not a Raptors fan. Contrary to popular belief, some of these tweets. But I've just been in a weird place with the experience because like I do want to see more volume. I want to see more efficiency. like it does feel like he is very reliant on, you mentioned the screening and what it does to open things up, and just the general tilting of the defense, so you can see some of the cuts from him, to see some of the on the move passing from him. Like he just needs the context to be a certain way, and like those kind of players obviously can still provide positive impact, but it always gives me a little bit pause. It's like, okay, how good does this context need to be for you to be yourself? And if it's not going to be that consistently, how much can we rely on you? And so I'm trying to give grace to him finding his footing, but also it's like it feels like a lot's working against him. At least that's kind of been my view of this.
He's in a very unique spot in that I don't know if it's now, but he had the lowest touches per minute on the whole team. And a lot of it seems to me like I can't remember who it was, but they commented under a tweet of mine, like the life of a movement shooter is not a glorious or glamorous life. And the Raptors, sometimes they just kind of use him as like a positioning tool on the floor. Like teams, Tyrese Proctor is face guarding you 36 feet away from the rim and you shoot 34% from downtown. What's happening? I don't know. But like he goes baseline and he gets doubled by Larry Nance Jr. and Craig Porter Jr. and they leave Sandro wide open. Why is that happening? VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey both follow him he's just cutting across the floor and leave RJ wide open for three. What is happening? The Raptors know what's happening and they take advantage of it. So they go set him out there like, you will help us manipulate defense. If the ball finds you, try and do something good with it, but it won't find you that often. It's a weird spot for him to be in, but albeit, I think a helpful one. Trey, are you still on team helpful with Gradey?
I'm still there. I obviously want more, but this team's like so devoid of shooting that he needs to be on the floor in order to make lineups work, and fit him and Jamison to some degree need to be in some sort of combination so that they just have enough spacing to get the actions that Darko wants done. And when they play together, they've been super positive. It's allowed guys like Scottie, BI to get to the rim a lot more. I think with Gradey, what you want to see, because the Raptors are at some point need to have other options outside of Brandon Ingram in the half court. Can he work second side, use his triple threat, get to the mid range, be passable at the rim when he does get a closeout, and be able to utilize that and his playmaking? It's all the stuff that you kind of assumed would be a guarantee for him going into the league that hasn't necessarily translated in the same sense, but his overall impact on the floor, and the reason why the bench units are very positive with him on there, because his defense isn't as necessarily bad as advertised. Teams attack him, they hunt him, but they're able to survive. And his spacing allows Darko to run actions weak side and allow other guys to get to the rim. So I want to see him play more. I want to see him get the ball a bit more as well, because they're, and I don't want to be like pessimistic. Like BI has been incredible in the half court, especially in the mid range, but they're going to need secondary options in order for this offense to sustain a decent level.
So an unnamed scout that we all know messaged me about Gradey and was asking what I thought and about Jakobi as well, and had this, this comment that was, Gradey doesn't handle the ball well enough to be considered a guard, and he certainly doesn't finish well enough for a wing. And I was like, damn, that's
oh no,
that's a good way to put it. But when I sat down with Gradey and he said about 6 times, I'm 21, you can tell he's waiting on the body to respond to NBA weightlifting programs, etc. Nekias, before we get out of here, the Raptors on the whole, as you said, you have these allegations of Raptor fandom. The Raptors have not been good for a long time. Yes. And I know you remember what it was like when it was good. Are you excited for a world where the Raptors are good?
Yes, actually. I think that'd be neat. I think the fan base deserves it. Like, there are still pockets of Raptors Twitter still talking about what that Tampa season was. Like, like there is some scarring within this fan base. So, like, I think them having a good team, them having a good defense in particular, I think will bring some of the juice back. And then you get some of the national media hates us, and you get that juice on top of it. You add a little more rigor and things. You get to nitpick anything a national media person says. Like, oh, well, it's clear they're not watching the team. What are you talking about? That's not how you say his name. He doesn't do this. Or like that feistiness is like an underrated bit of like the NBA Twitter ecosystem in general. So like, yeah, I think it'd be cool if they're actually good. It's not just a hot start this year.
So I think after this game, Cleaning the Glass is probably going to have them at projected to win like 55 games. How are you on? How's the start of the season? I know most of the numbers they say normalize between 15 to 20 onward. Some people say January is the most predictive month for future success. How do you feel about the Raptors after their 14-game run of 9-5? Are they better than you thought? And are you really confident going forward?
It's tough because like when I did my like preseason like predictions and things like that, like I did have Toronto like just out of the play-in. But it was one of those
Just out.
just
Ooh.
it was one of those where I'm just like on the high end, I can see them getting to like 5 or 6. And on the low end, like the offense just doesn't work. They don't figure things out defensively, and it's just like, ooh, they got some decisions to make because of the contracts on the roster, yada yada yada. And so this feels like the high end version of what this Raptors team could be. Like them being top 10 offense is where I'm just kind of like, well, I don't know about that part. But like the defense itself, they do just have a collective range about them, at least kind of looking at the roster heading into the year. So like, yes and no to them kind of surprised me on that front. Like I don't think 55 wins is gonna be the bit for them. But like if this ends up being like 6 seed, 7 seed, just outside of the 6 seed, like that wouldn't super surprise me. Like they do have talent up and down this roster.
So this start has not given you like illusions of outside of your range. You're still well within your range of expectation for this team.
Yeah, for right now, yeah.
I think that makes sense. I think at the Vegas round table, I said that they'd be 6 or 7. Although I had no expectation of them being out of the play-in. But when you sit like if you expect the ripcord because of contracts at trade deadline, they probably do have a wider range. Although God, they paid for this team and they're gonna sit firmly in it and see where it goes. And thankfully, it's 8-1 in the last 9. Nekias, is there anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I have a quick Raptors question before we get out. No, we got to get out
Mm-hmm.
quick. So, what is it going to take for Jamison Battle to get more minutes?
So he didn't play coach's decision. He's been dealing with something. I wrote a piece where I was like, he should be playing. There's politics here. I think if I could give you actually Trey, I'm kind of where are you on this? That's what I want to know.
He should be playing. I think the Raptors clearly have like their 9 now. The 4 guys off the bench that they've been playing with their starters. And I think Jacoby Walter now is like probably best served being in Mississauga and playing with the 905 and like getting some of that confidence back, especially on the dribble, because he looks nowhere near where he was like second half of last season. And like Ochai Agbaji, I know you're trying to figure out like contract situation and whether like he's extension worthy, but like Jamison Battle has been too good.
He's been better.
Yeah, he has been better. He's been too good to not play minutes now. And I know there's guys you're trying to figure out time, but for the first time in a few years, the Raptors have games that matter and they're trying to win. Like just today, this is probably the first time I've sat up watching a Raptors game with 2 minutes left with happiness. So like he needs to play. Like they're at a point where they're trying to win games and they're trying to punch up, and he can help that.
So he's been better than Gradey in my estimation. Although he has the Raptors put Gradey on the floor, you've won your minutes. It's every single game this year. He leads the team plus minus. Even he gets hunted sometimes. Teams are like, man, maybe we spent 8 seconds instead of 4 looking for this. It's a bit bothersome. But Jamison, if you're going to shoot 75% from 3, then you're going to be better than a lot of people. And he's got a lot better feet and ability to hang in defensively. I think that's where we stand on it, Nekias. But I think there's some politics of extensions coming up. Other players, you feel like you owe them a runway. And Jamison has like a $3 million contract next season. So I think that's most of what we're seeing right now. But similar to Trey, I would love to see him enter the game sooner and for longer portions. How do you feel from your perspective?
Oh, like I just love like he can shoot, but more than anything, like he just feels like such a smart mover. Like they do some of the go screen stuff with him, like the footwork's clean. He makes quick decisions as a passer. It's not super advanced stuff, but it's just like as cliche as it sounds, he gets it.
Yes.
And then you just kind of have
Yeah.
like a little bit more size. Like I just think he should be in the rotation. So like that's where I'm just like, I watch the Raptors, but y'all cover the Raptors, so you would have a better handle on this than I do. That's why I was like, what am I missing with that?
Speaking of the gets it thing, not a lot of shooters stampede cut, not expecting to get to the rim, but to draw a rotation for their next relocation where they will hit the three. He sees he's kind of seeing the game before it's happening. And that's he's not LeBron James, all right? I don't want to he's not breaking the NBA with the skip pass in 2011, but he's seeing the game. I think that's an accurate place to put it. This is an accurate place to end it, I think. Thank you to everybody for listening. Nekias, anything you want to say before we bounce?
Just that I appreciate y'all and the work that you do. Scottie Barnes, all defense.
Yes, sir.
Subscribe to the Dunker Spot podcast. And be kind to one another. That's all I got.
Yeah. Trey, I know you got to get out of here. I won't even prayers to Jamaica.
Prayers to Jamaica.
Prayers to
Always.
Jamaica. And donate if you can. That's, as always, signing off. Nekias, thank you very much for coming on. Listen to the Dunker Spot podcast, where they will be pushing Scottie all defense propaganda. I don't know if you've got Steve on board yet, but I hope he'll come around.
I'll politic enough for the both of us, just in case.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hype the newest thing on YouTube. Keep tuned with everything on RaptorsRepublic.com and the channel. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. From myself, from Trey, from Nekias. Have a blessed day, and goodbye.